Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure, and we're back on the 1984 200S, and the next thing we need is a recoil starter. Now, recoil starters kind of come in two flavors. There's this way, which is normally the way you get them, and they need a little bit of attention. This one has a tendency to not rewind all the way. And then the way they're supposed to be, which is this guy, right? It's supposed to have a compression release cable such that when you pull the string here, this cable does a quick like this, and that little click like that. See the compression release bar? It still has the cable on it. It goes like this, and it allows you to start this thing a little easier. It pulls back less on the arm. This, with the cable and the complete assembly, this cover and all, this is like Bigfoot. You will find more of these guys, Astro conversions. You will find many more tracks of Bigfoot than you will find complete recoil starter. Over the 30 to 35 years that these things existed, kids have just taken them apart. And you can see why very quickly. See all this extra stuff here? It's very easy for a kid to put it together, pull the string a couple of times and say, hey, wait a minute, it all works. Why bother putting this extra junk on here? So, I mean, you're never ever going to find this. If somebody does want to see this one opened up with all the proper stuff in there, I could do that. But let's talk about this as a completely separate and distinct video. Let's talk about this guy. This guy has a tendency to not roll its string all the way back. And when you're troubleshooting that, you want to take just a couple of minutes, right? This is a bit, I don't know what the heck happened here. Probably hammered because the kid was having trouble getting it to recoil, and so he started to beat on it. But you want to just kind of rub your hands along the outside. And if this is dented in, that will keep the cord from going back in. Quite honestly, if you also look in here, it's just a little bit crusty. So I think with a good cleaning and an extra wind to the rope, life is going to be good. So let's get to that. Generally speaking, when it comes to recoils, I do not take apart what does not need to be taken apart, because you get into trouble. This project is also much better done on a kitchen table than a situation like this. Chances are you're going to drop something and you're going to lose it. Luckily for me, I do have spare parts downstairs, but I really rather not lose them, lose any part of this to that. So once again, to get from this situation to that situation, you would undo these 4 screws. This cover comes off. This piece of plastic comes off. You'll see that the cable goes into the plastic, and I think there's kind of a little bar here that makes it do, bar spring type thing that makes it do its thing. Once again, I'm deliberately staying out of there. If you find one like this and you want to talk about it, we can, but you're just not going to, you know. And if you do, go buy a lottery ticket, because you'll get rich and you'll be able to afford all kinds of all-terrain vehicles like I have floating around here. What I'm going to do now is, I see this extra washer floating around in here. That's never a good sign. And I'm just taking a quick look at all this. You want to get a little screwdriver to pry this off. And you really want to hang on to this clip because they have a tendency to leave. You very gently want to release. There is a spring kind of pushing down on all this, and you want to gently release that so stuff doesn't go flying. Just mentioning that up front before I get into it, just in case you're skipping ahead. So you can see the recoil sitting there. These are the tools you're going to need. I have a bent pair of needle nose and a regular one. I recommend the shorter version of needle nose, a little easier to control things. So you just kind of pry this out a little. Notice that I'm deliberately kind of keeping my fingers over it so it doesn't go and fly away. Notice how that popped right up. This washer has a little cut on the bottom. That kind of makes it so that it stays. So as you're going to recoil it, it makes this slide out, which makes the dog slide out. I'm not sure why this was in here. Quite honestly, it looks like a spare part. The spring. I call these kind of the spider. There's 3 of them. Once again, you don't want to lose them, and you want to be careful not to break the feet off of them. Here are the dogs. And there you have the recoil, which seems to move real easy, and right now it's retracting completely. It's doing all kinds of things like it should be. Now, there's always decisions to make on all of this, and I'm going to kind of make an executive decision here. I'd rather not take this out and mess with the spring. A lot of times the springs are old, 35 years old, and when you take it all apart, you could have a tendency for the ends to give way. So I'm not going to do that. Should you decide to take the spring off, you can either do that by, right, see how I pulled it out a little ways, I'm holding it, and you kind of push the rope through, or grab the rope with the needle nose, pull it through, and untie the knot. You release the pressure gently, and the rope will be wound up, and you could take this right out. And when you put it back in, it should grab the spring and retension. I'm going to say that theoretically because that's not always what happens. Once again, I don't recommend taking apart anything that you don't need to take apart. I'm just pushing down on it. It seems really good, so I'm just going to oil it up in here a little bit. I'm going to clean it up, and I'm going to put it back together again. I'm not going to do a complete tear down on this because, once again, I'd rather not have the spring go bad and have to mess with it. But should you have to completely tear it down, the way you do it is untie that knot, let it wind itself completely in, and then when you want to retension it, see that little notch there? Look at this. We have other stuff falling out too. We have a spare clip. Yeah, somebody's obviously been in here. Anything else? Appears not. That might have been why the rope wasn't always retracting, actually, because as I mentioned, the movement, so to speak, felt pretty good. So here we are. To replace the rope, there are a few different ways to do it. I have a tendency to, obviously the basket's out, you tie the rope on, you wind it all around, leaving this end that you're going to put the handle on, you leave that end free. Once you get it to the point where it's all put together, you can see this, feel the spring has grabbed a little. I feed where that notch is, I feed a piece of rope up. I go around until it's, you know, one extra thing, pull a little bit extra out, reach in here with needle nose or feed it through here like that. Once again, pull plenty out, tie a knot in it so that there's some leftover rope. And then I use that leftover rope to tie the knot in here. I untie this knot, it pulls tight, they're all good. Working on recoils is not hard, they're just a few tricks. Like, remember your notch right there. Hopefully I'm showing it to you. A little filming trick, I drew a mark where the camera happens to be focused. So I know if I'm over here talking, you're not seeing anything, right? I know to stay within here. Anyway, once again, I'm going to oil this up just a little bit and clean it up just a little bit and start putting it back together again. So as you can see, kind of cleaned it up and it was real nasty. Cleaned up the dogs, I put them back in. They're moving nice and easy. These guys here, this hole here, you want to set it up so that it goes where that is. One, two, three. So not all that hard. I used a little of this stuff in here. Here's the copper washer was there. Notice that it also has that flat side in it. Right. There we go. Spring. I'm just going to put another little bit of oil. You don't have to go too crazy with the oil. There you are. This is the top one. I'm just going to give it a little clean up. It's pretty. It's kind of scraped up. Well, most of it's wiping off. Not too horrible. Alright. This is the next part. Once again, I'm just going to put a little oil right here. The oil I'm using is the stuff that came with the Zoom bottles. Lily White lubricant, stainless. I guess what I would call it is sewing machine oil. Anyway, my wife's playing Christmas music. I don't want to get hit with the copyright, so I got to stop here for a few minutes. So, you can see I pushed the cover down. I put the copper washer with the little orientating thing, and I slipped the retaining clip on, and the whole thing is working really nice, and you can see how easily it returns, and I didn't put an extra wrap on it. So chances are one of the loose things in there was slowing stuff down. I got an extra clip out of the deal. These clips are kind of hard to find, so I'm really happy about all of that. So this recoil is ready to bolt right on, ready to go. We're all happy. Didn't take apart anything I didn't need to, didn't break anything. So that's all really good news. It's time to put this on here. So what I did was I took just a minute to tap these out. You can see that right there. And I also cleaned up these, right? These are known as M6 1.0. M6 is how thick the bolt is, so to speak, and the 1.0 is the thread pitch. So I cleaned the ones up that came out of there, made sure they were the right ones. I bent the slotted washers there, the lot washers, to put some tension so they don't undo. There was only 3 out of 4 of them. And whenever I'm at a flea market and somebody's selling hardware, right, you see the M6 one. This whole bag of 30 was only $4. You know, just a matter of doing things right. So I'm going to bolt the starter on, and we're going to see how well it works. Okay, the recoil is on here. And it's not much. Put a little gas into the carb. Spill gas all over the carb. Choke on. Getting there. Not only can it start right up, but the headlight works. That's the high position. Oh, actually it's the low position. That's the high position. Check it out. For these old ones, first should be down. I'm happy. You happy? Yeah, this thing is closer and closer. We should be able... Boy, she sounds good. I got no smoke. I mean, nothing. Yeah, this was, obviously it's a cold start. Still cold, obviously. Yeah, this looks like it's going to be a winner. Quite honestly, if the plastic were a little better, it'd be worthwhile putting the one of the pretty recoils on it. Yeah, the thing returns real nice. I'm happy. So, it's cold. And it's starting to get dark, so I think I'm going to wrap this up here. I want to thank everybody for dropping by to watch, and comment, and subscribe. Please remember to keep your feet down, your heads up, and get out each and every day and enjoy your lives. Bye now.